else. Protests are my bag for anyone who's followed this reasonably long enough. I go to all kinds of them, and they're reviewed and covered by everyone else in different ways. Why I started doing this is because I was unhappy with how everyone else was covering it. They were either the host and partisan themselves, so they'd review themselves and say, I'm doing a good job," or "Everyone else is terrible," or it's talking to your hand, it's talking to yourself. Or the other hand is corporate media either giving them complete fan service or they're the worst things since Hitler and Stalin crossed with Mao to create the devil. Can we just talk to them? And that's why I'm reviewing a little bit of what happened today. And if you're up at this hour with me too at 10 past 11, you might be doing the same. People are going to want to talk about numbers. I'm not here to talk about numbers. I want to see what other people are saying, reading the newspapers of sorts. And the best way to do that is how the numbers are like. Let's start with the biggest numbers, trying to rate what them reviews are. And interestingly, with these numbers, it means something when a guy with no training and no experience, and I don't know what reach means compares to July traffic or news sites, web and mobile data. I have no idea what these numbers relate to each other, but it means something. Ask some of the other guys who do this what their numbers look like as well, because what we're not noticing and we're really bad at is times change, numbers change. We didn't catch up with how technology changed and media is changing. Thousands of people, or just on 100,000 people for at least a couple of seconds, came across my streams today. Honestly, I'm happy if it only 32. I'm not hungry after the huge numbers, but what those numbers mean is that what I do, which is just wander around and talk to people, is reaching a lot of people. There's a hunger, there's demand for it, there's a gap in the market for it. By the way, drop in the comments and say hello while you're here. And that's it. Ivy Yemeni and Aussie Cossack rendezvous, 100,000 reach. I don't know what these numbers mean. They're very big, but they mean something compared to this. Don't know. But let's have a look, because why we're here, what the news said about today's protest, because that's what I do, protests. Sport, new variant. Did anyone else hear about the new variant and just go, yeah, okay, we'll just deal with it. Whatever. Just get on with it. Honestly, it really is. All right, so fourth story down from ABC. 1, 2, 3, 4. Gee, it's all COVID news, isn't it? Cripes. 4 children died in house fire, but yeah, all COVID news. Let's have a look at the ABC. We're not going to have a look at the video. Opposing vaccine mandates. Great. No one's mentioned Nazis. Cool. That's a good start. Victoria Police estimate 20,000. That's better than what they used to estimate, which is there are 3,000 people here. Now, we're going to come to about numbers being a bit fibbly. Everyone wants to say that numbers were very big and say that we're 500,000. I'll say this before I say it again. There are not 500,000 people at these protests. There just aren't. You're going to want me to put a specific number in it. Well, I don't know. I can't. Sorry, I can't give you the exact number of what it will be. I'm just a dot in a crowd. Once it gets beyond what you can see from any one position, it's harder to say. But I will say this: it's not 500,000. Had lost their jobs. Legislation, intense debate, state of emergency. Why aren't we talking about Nazis? Week after rallies, International Day of Protest. Protests in Western Australia. Thousands of where are the Nazis? Experts say they were police. Wow. Okay, ABC. There you go. Highlighting the issues of what it was. If this is a BLM protest, racial justice, disproportionate policing. One thing of why I do what I do is even if the beliefs of the protesters are true or false, Black deaths in custody, number of Trump, whatever it is, true or false, it's about representing what their concerns were honestly. If you say your concern is that Black people are being disproportionately imprisoned, it's about hearing them. We can debate the facts and the numbers later, and there's arguments on both sides, vaccine arguments, both sides, blah, 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 blah. It's about honestly conveying what your beliefs are. If I speak to you and you have an absolutely crazy idea that Nazis still have a moon base on and they're still planning space lasers and etc. Um, that sounds pretty crazy to me, but it's about honestly representing what you're saying to me, what you believe, etc., etc. Um, I can give you my opinion, which is it's pretty implausible that there are Nazis on the moon with space lasers trying to manipulate affairs on Earth. But let's move on from that one to the trying to identify violent protesters. Yep. Okay. Cool. Got some photos of violent protesters of protests months ago. No mention of Nazis. Cool. Guys, they probably were Nazis in this crowd. They were probably Nazis in the crowd today. They were probably Nazis in the crowd of BLM. If you look at the statistics of rates of murderers, at most protests you go to, there's probably a ex-president or other type of murder if you're getting above 10,000 to 1. Or rapists, or generally, law of statistics says that you're going to come across bad people once you get the numbers big enough. Anyway, moving on from that to right. This is number 2. This was one of the BBC ones that I had here that I had to bring up. I want to flag with you is that if anyone comes to you and tries to superliminally tell you, trust me, trust me, trust me. If you're anything like me, you're going to hesitate in trusting them. So whenever the BBC has a full screen pop-up blockout that says news you can trust, I just don't trust you. I don't believe you. And it's getting harder and harder to find news to trust because it's all becoming so partisan. And maybe that's just the way it is, but BBC, cricket, Solomon Islands, religious discrimination, giant chimneys, La Nina. We use more power than almost anyone in Australia. Food, photos of Indigenous women scoop prize. How fresh is your food? Protest. Control F. Okay, there were no protests in Sydney today, according to Australia's 9th most read news source. Everything is fine. Thanks, BBC. Thanks. Trust. I want to share with you a moment of trust, if I can, when it comes to superliminal trust.
Oh, Lisa.
Have recruiting ads on TV. Why do you need subliminal messages?
It's a 3-pronged attack. Subliminal, liminal, and superliminal.
Superliminal?
I'll show you. Hey, you! Join the Navy! Yeah, all right.
I'm in.
Well, now that you know, Lisa, I'm afraid I can't let you leave.
You got a laugh out of that one. Superliminal advertising shouting at you to trust. Number 2, news.com.au. Solomon Islands, Omicron variant, cricket, Omicron variant. Number 4, huge crowds hit streets for anti-vax protests. Thousands of, I hate the quotes. Does anyone else hate the quotes? And it doesn't matter what the issue is. Thousands of racial justice protesters, thousands of transgender protesters. The quotes are anytime you see that, you can see a journalism student that graduated sometime after 2008 or so. To rally against vaccine mandates. That was pretty much the biggest issue that most people had there. There were people having discussions about vaccine injuries. There were people having issues, but that was the main one that I could. Very low resolution image. That's lower resolution in my live streams. Not now. Damn autoplay. Large crowd, big group of people, banners, drums, Sack down Andrews. That's what most people are. That's what I can see as well. Dwindled, headed home, camping out. A sizable crowd. You know what? It's probably better not to put a number on it, but Rebel MP. That was nice. And to comment, one of quite a broad church song is "I Am Australian," and land rights, Aboriginal issues did feature quite prominently today. But unlike a BLM rally, no one was raising a fist saying we need to go and beat this other person for it, because most of the causes that they're unhappy with, the people who committed those crimes, atrocities, whatever you want to call it, they're dead. Very dead, as in more than 8 feet down. No issues arose during the... Oh, that's interesting. No issues arose during the protest. I want to come to this later because there was some conflict that happened. I'll speed through the rest of it. Sydney Morning Herald, all overseas arrivals isolate what we know about Omicron. Lead story right at the top. Thousands of protests opposing... Guys, again, I try not to be partisan in what I do, but these weasel words, the quote, you know, when they quote things and like, oh, so-called racial justice, so-called Trump protesters, so-called transgender. Again, Megan, who I wonder when you did graduate. Take a break for me. Let's go and have a look at what Megan Gorey when she graduated. Oh, hold on. Let's go have a look at her. Reporter, Canberra Times, 2012, MacArthur Advertiser, St George in Sutherland Shire, Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism, 2017, Centre for Independent Journalism, ACIG, University of Wollongong, Bachelor of Communications Media Studies, 2005-2008. These are how we use the so-called journalists. Ugh. I hate using her. She's a reporter. Second week in a row, gathered. Yeah, great. 87. See, when we see Media Watch saying that Rook Shine's uninterrupted live stream, and he has a slant. We all have slants, right? To immediately then debunk it would be like me interviewing, for context, a Nazi, and then saying some experts have denied the existence of etc. I'm not going to context check someone who subscribes to Hitler's ideology. I'm not going to context check someone who subscribes to Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge. That's kind of up to you guys. That's fairly well known. Less well-known topics, I might, after I interview the person, raise some of the context checks. But how many lines are we in before we jump into that? Overwhelming evidence safe and effective in preventing. I'm not sure whether Megan's saying that for us or for her editors, but sure, she's got to put it in there, and it's not misrepresenting the protest, but it's always the fact checks we see. Take, for example, Black deaths in custody. There have been studies saying that the numbers that the protesters with Black deaths in custody have said are false or incorrect, that they are not unfairly racially prejudiced. There are other studies that say the other way. When Black deaths in custody protests are written about, we don't see journalists, or I don't read articles saying, oh, 4 line down, 5 studies have said that Black people in Australia are not unfairly prejudiced, and these studies are... Context checking early on is, well, it's a slant, and it's very clear. And why I'm showing this to you is to help you also spot when slants are used also in articles when you see them, because you can shape things the way you want it. All right, let's keep going. Organized across cities, millions, 150,000. Police estimated crowds peaked at 9,000. Truth is probably somewhere between the two. Guys, I'm not sure about the 150,000 number. I'm also not sure about the 9,000 number either. I don't know between the two, because BLM was often quoted to be 20,000 plus, up to 50,000, and this was bigger than BLM. I don't think this was 150,000. But to find the truth, well, that's when we get to partisan views. Circuit Hyde Park, freedom needs no passport. Yeah, okay. Young boy, Gabriel, sad and frustrated guy. Only children, prominent cheer, another speaker, sack them all. Yeah, okay, 85,000. Oh, okay, well, we didn't have more of the Craig Kelly, associated with the United Australia Party, which faced charges and accusations of being terrible for a variety of accusations. That kind of context fact checking, it invites more slants. When we're just saying, here's what Craig Kelly said, here's what Scott Morrison said, here's what the UAP said, that's kind of more news reporting rather than what we turned into the journalism slant. And that's why I avoid the title entirely. New Daily, a lot of people read this. We got anything in protest? No. Guardian. Yeah, pop up. Omicron, public school teachers, electric travel, fight for Wentworth, Republicans, Rittenhouse. Are we still on Rittenhouse? Oh my God. So many of you have asked me to give me a view on Rittenhouse. Look, my job, as much as this did occur at a protest, Rittenhouse is such a divisive topic. Protest. Okay, okay. This is how far the first hit for protest is. We got to scroll. Top shots, 20 photographs a week. Refugees cross the channel, a protest over the verdict in Carl Rittenhouse, a migrant caravan. According to The Guardian, there was no protest. Or at least not on the page, I'm sure. There's an article somewhere in here, but everything's fine. Now, YouTube naturally gives you the large coverage. Had a quick look through Channel 7's feed. Let's have a look.
It was one of several demonstrations across the country with police out in force, ready to act, but hoping those involved stayed within the law.
The rain didn't deter them, as thousands again marched through the streets of Sydney CBD with one key message.
No to the vaccine.
The whole thing's a scam as far as I'm concerned.
Crowds spilled into Hyde Park.
Okay. This is something I wanted to raise here when I first saw it that enraged me. Why is the shot not including the stage? This is another one of those things where the center of the frame is where your view is naturally drawn towards. In the center of the frame. Piece of art over here. Art. I took those photos, by the way. But you're naturally drawn towards me. In fact, when we're doing this, we're always trying to look for center, looking at the heads. Anyway, we'll get back to we're drawn to the center of the frame, which is the edge of the protest. This is another way we slant things. And when I say we, people who are trying to represent things that happen out there in the real world, now we're all locked down.
Crowds spilled into Hyde Park, filling
But for a little while,
most of it this afternoon.
There's the other angle. So the initial one,
Hyde Park filling most of it.
This one's a much better shot. So center of the frame is somewhere around this tree here. Let me get rid of myself. Goodbye. Center of the frame,
But this afternoon.
much better. And this is one that people in news use to try and impress upon the enormity and the endlessness of it. Because, honestly, guys, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. That is not 150,000 people. I believe that is quite likely to be more than 9,000 people. And I also believe this was more than BLM, which was quoted as between 20 and 50. I don't know about 50 here. But look, when it's the largest protest of the year for the second weekend in a row, this means something. If you're working as a staffer in a politician's office, first of all, how do you have time at 11:30 at night on a Saturday to watch this? Good on you. Keep it up. Maybe you're just an aspirational staffer in a politician's office. But it means something that this issue on a very wet, very rainy day got this many people out. I fully expected this to be 1/3 of last week because of the rain. I fully expected this to be far less than 9,000 people. I fully expected this to be a complete washout. It wasn't. It wasn't at all. I think this was less than last week, but not by that much. Not by that much. Let's keep going because searching YouTube, and what had me jump on live here is looking through the Sydney protest stream. Yep, 7, 9, news.com.au, great, border closed. We've been here before. I saw Aussie Cossack uploads, and I saw 6 News' uploads. And I want to watch with you Aussie Cossack's video that he uploaded just a few hours ago. 2 minutes, 9 seconds. And this is the start. This is the very start.
No, this is an absolute disgrace. Look at this. Hang on, we're paying respect to Queen Victoria. We've got Queen Victoria here. The people, line, hold the line, hold the line, hold the line, hold the line, push mate, hold the line, come on, hold the line, hold the line, hold the line. Police are pushing protesters. It's terrible. Look at the police pushing people. This is violence, police violence. Stop pushing women.
Who messed up there? Okay, hold on. Okay, so we've gotten a minute into this, and immediately the first thing I see is what happened before this. Because I wasn't here. I want to know what the lead up is, always. Whenever you see a clip of, and all you've got is just the guy getting pushed to the ground, you immediately want to know what happened before this moment. So let's try and have a bit more of a look, because we'll start with some Google Maps. The main protest was happening here on the east side of the north end of Hyde Park. Aussie Cossack at this time is just up here in front of Queen Vic. I last saw Aussie Cossack at about here at 11:20. And if I can find a video of what he was doing at that point in time, let me just mute this for 1 second.
Going. Going.
Okay, cool. This is where I last saw him at around 11:20. He was in the north end of Hyde Park handing out ponchos. It was lovely. It was a very wet day for those who weren't there in a different state. Quite wet. We've been seeing flood level amounts of rain around Sydney, and he was doing his normal Aussie Cossack simian thing, being charming, happy, shaking hands, talking to people, playing Waltzing Matilda, cheering for the fans, shooting videos. I mean, this is what he does. So what makes me then wonder is, why has he gone from the park north to Queen Victoria? You've got a protest stage, a clear centre to the event. You've got a crowd which is spilling out most of this area here on the east side of Hyde Park. Why are we leaving the area, and especially with a group of people? So that's when this stream here came up.
This is Queen Victoria. Queen Elizabeth is still alive, and she still can ask the Governor General to sack Scott Morrison. Governor General, dear Governor General, Your Honourable Excellency, the people of Sydney are here at the statue of Queen Victoria, who you represent and who your predecessors represented, and we're asking the Governor General to exercise his powers, to call an election, because Labor and Liberal have occupied the Parliament. There is no parliamentary process anymore in our Parliament. They sneak the laws through, they collaborate with each other, Labor and Liberal.
This goes on for a little while. I'll turn that down while I continue what I've got here. Why has Simeon decided, certainly during the protest, to have moved to Queen Victoria? Why has he come out of Hyde Park? It's part of the job is to get people's attention, and I understand that. You say something because it's provocative. At the same time, if your goal is not to be someone who creates an incident like this, we've got an inspector who it looks like walks up to him and says, "Hey, you've got a venue. Can you go be over there with the rest of it?" And he doesn't. It leaves everyone who's not a complete he can do no wrong go, well, why can't you take the group and head on south, follow that direction? And then the response will be, oh, we don't. Well, this is kind of the police's job, to contain large groups of people in an area. And in this case, outside of this incident, I didn't see an incident of police containing people outside of giving them all of Hyde Park and 3 lanes of Elizabeth Street. That's a great outcome for most protests. They ran over. I saw Inspector Asima reach out to Michael and say, "Hey, you've gone 2 hours over when you were meant to finish." They said, yeah, we'll get on our way, which was quite good. The inspector, we can see here, 3 steps, comes up to Simeon and says, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you up to?" And Simeon says, "No, hold the line, resist."
You serve us! 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 Okay, we've got violence here. Police are getting violent.
Inspector tries to speak to him, says, you've got a venue down there, go to it. That's when Simeon points to the police, bringing the cordon forward, saying, can you go back to the park? And this is where things get to pushing and shoving. And when it comes to pushing and shoving, police are better at it. And they love to do it. And they've got the protection of the law to do it. And they've got protection of Parliament to do it. And they've got protection of courts to do it. And they've got protection of a lot of people who want law and order to do it. They've got a lot of levels of protection around to use their hands. I am infinitely grateful whenever I'm covering protests to be facing New South Wales police who use their hands as opposed to Victoria police, who use their sprays and use their rubber bullets. It's all relative. Would it be wonderful if police never even had to use their hands? Absolutely great. We're not in that world. We are comparing ourselves to the same country, a different state, where rubber bullets were used for a crowd that wasn't trying to block traffic, wasn't trying to disrupt a different situation. Well, people can have different views about a lot more than that, but to escalate to rubber bullets was a lot, and I'm glad I'm not facing it. This is the kind of attention that Simeon wants. I think he ran a great protest last week, which stayed within his Form 1 that he lodged with police, I believe, and nothing got out of hand. To me, there wasn't a need for this. You can have a protest and address your people without shouting at them to hold the line. So to go from a wonderful Easter show like, oh, isn't this wonderful, a free punch show for everyone, which was great, to we're going to go over to Queen Victoria and hold the line when police are asking to return us an entire park which they reserved for our use. I'd come with a view quite similar if it was pretty much any other protest cause. You have an entire park, use the entire park. This is your space now. And if you want to exile people from it, that's kind of just what they do. BLM will exile people that they don't want there. What do you think of Ozzy Kassak and what he did here? We do also have to be forgiving of people in the moment, adrenaline, energy, a man in uniform coming to tell you that you need to move along and I'm in charge. It's intense. It's a lot. It would be overwhelming for Simeon, as most people. And to keep your head cool in the middle of that, it's hard. It's hard. But this isn't Simeon's first rodeo. I, more than once, have gone into protest not realizing how group dynamics work. And you learn and you make mistakes. I think this one could have been done better. but maybe that's exactly what he wanted. And that's what I wanted to hop on stream and share with you, because most protests I cover don't instruct protest attendees to hold the line against police.
Cameras on. All right, film this. Police violence in New South Wales.
Okay.
This is violence. Police brutality. This is police brutality. How dare the police push people? How dare you? There's women and children. Film this, guys. There's a child. You're scaring the child. There's a little girl.
Okay, that's so shaky that I can't do it. We're going to go back to Simeon from a minute onwards. Screaming child always gets one's attention. Let's have a closer look at this. We can see over the course of a minute the police line forming and trying to direct protesters back to the southeast to Hyde Park. It's at this point that Simeon is instructing.
Hang on, we're paying respect to Queen Victoria.
That they want to stay where they are. When police want you to go somewhere and you don't want to, police win. They get their way. You can argue about it later. You can make police look bad on video. But you have to comply, because if you don't comply, that's when police will escalate up the ladder of force. You can film that, and you probably should. But if you're not complying with it, even if it's wrong, and I've had plenty of police directions that have been wrong, unfair, even unlawful, you record it, you document it. The court of law isn't in that moment where you get to argue with police. The court of law tends to be either in public opinion, or you can escalate complaints through the Law Enforcement Commission, which probably won't go anywhere. They will investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing, but you have the court of public opinion. In this case, I see a line of police asking Simeon's group to move on, and Simeon instructing them to resist.
We've got Queen Victoria here. The people, line, hold the line, hold the line, hold the line.
Why, Simeon? Why do you need to hold the line? What is it about standing under Queen Victoria at this very moment that you can't say, hey guys, police want us to move on. It's unfair. It's unjust. This is terrible policing. But please, let's just move along just a little. It's unfair that we have to do this, but we're going to do as they ask. It's terrible, and condemn them. And I'm not sure who was there with him, the inspector who came and saw him. Yep, all right. Let's have a look at the mother just before the incident. So Simeon saying, hold the line, don't move on. Oh, we've got a 3-star. Who have we got on the shoulder? We've got an inspector from Public Order and Riot. No, from Raptor. Oh, no name. Raptor don't have names. Don't have names. It's just G. So there's an inspector close by, and we can see Sergeant. Is that? So you can see the line has created a small bulge. Where's the mother and the girl who's about to start screaming? Yep. Okay. So there's the girl, and there's a couple of layers deep. A couple of guys are starting to get isolated, and you have the back to them. Move on. Doesn't want to move. Hey, do you really need to push me that hard? Kind of look. They do this. OSG and Raptor here are getting upset because they want to achieve what they want to do. Watch this gentleman just here. We're going to go forward frame by frame. Is he moving forwards or backwards? He is moving backwards. Moving backwards into police line. And guess what they're going to do once he moves backwards into the police line and falls backwards onto them? See this guy also onto him? Guess what they're going to do? They're going to... Oh, they haven't yet. They're going to give him a big shove. They're going to give a big shove and say, move on, mate. Move on. Get out of here. And I know... Right. They're waiting because there's a screaming girl in the middle. Yep. That's a very good move by police. You don't... When there's kids in there, Girls getting upset, a lot of shouting. Female copper. Guy's right hand reaches for the female's copper arm. This officer is going to see his arm and say, and that will ratchet the tension up again as soon as you're moving arms towards police officers. They just, fair or not, fair or not. Shoulder gets pushed. He's now looking at that arm, and we're looking at this in millisecond, but this is reaction. Arm gets shoved, reaction. In this moment, there is not a hive mind happening within all of these officers. All of them are trying to make their own individual decisions. Some will push harder than others. There's no one call out that's going to go to them to do things. They're all trying to make their own decisions on how hard should we push? What are we trying to do? And they're going to, in a screaming match like this, get things wrong. Protesters will too. This is a family-friendly protest. At the same time, if you see a line of police coming towards you and you have a child with you, leave. Leave. Leave in any direction. Now, you haven't left in any direction, and Simeon is telling you to stay. You're being told to resist police. Police are going to resist you. Fair or not. Isn't that a beautiful still frame? Isn't that a beautiful still frame? If this was the reaction that you were trying to get. Help me. Yep. There you go. If this is what you wanted, this is the way that you'd get it. Take a group outside the protest area, north to Macquarie Street, which is where the Parliament buildings are. Tell them, address them, have the inspector come and speak with you. Tell the inspector that they serve us, and the inspector goes away. Raptor, send them in. Raptor, public order. They start saying, move on, move the cordon forward. Simeon says, no, refuse, hold the line. Supporters of his stay with his kids. You've got your moment. Done. Tick. If Michael Sims had this, he would. I don't know Michael Sims perfectly, but I know him the organizer of today's event reasonably well enough that he would not have liked this event to happen. And if police, in the middle of a speech, came up to him and said, "Shut it down now, or we're sending in public order," he would have pulled the power plug out. Unless this is something that you wanted. Something I'll note is that the gentleman over here on the left who was falling backwards onto the police has not been detained. He's still being pushed forward. And I haven't seen a single arrest here. Again, we have this. This is something that happens when I'm with some Antifa protesters all the time. Gentleman here in the suit, standing towards police. Is he moving? Watch as he moves backwards. Now, this can be intentional or unintentional. But if you don't want to move somewhere, you won't move there. And he does not want to move on. Is it fair for the police to go and move these people on? They're just standing under Queen Victoria. Is this really an objective that they need to capture right now? These are all fair and good arguments. But we also need to ask the same questions of Simeon as well. Does he need to defend this objective right in this very moment? Is he willing to accept this? 2 months ago, police were willing to roadblock bridges in order to ensure not one protester could reach the city. We are now sitting here in a city which allows thousands, tens of thousands of protesters to gather. You've got to keep some of this in relative mind. You can't have all objectives. Not everything is fair. You've got to pick your battles. And was this the battle that you really needed to pick? I want to point out again the gentleman in the grey suit. He's moved backwards. He's been pushed forward again. Taking bigger pushes than this. This isn't too bad. But after he takes the push, there's no one further in front of him other than Simeon. He recoils backwards again towards the police line. Hands out from his body towards other protesters. Body language here. I don't want to go. Not moving forward. He's not moving. Police are trying to push him forward. There's clear air in front of him. Yeah, this is a gentleman who does not want to. Yeah, you take a step forward and you lean a little back. Take a step forward, lean a little back. Part of the body language is intentional, part of it is unintentional. You don't always have it with a clear angle, but I will say this, compared to all of the policing that we've seen in Victoria over the past few months, this is lightweight. And I know it would be nice if the police would just let Simeon have this gathering under Queen Victoria and have that move on. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Do police really need to capture this objective and push people back to Hyde Park right now? What particular important public safety objective do they need to secure around Queen Victoria? Was she in danger? Was the mint in danger when we're printing all of those silver coins? Yep, absolutely. Fair questions. At the same time, they're the police. They get to run the show. And in this case, they've made a decision that Hyde Park is your gathering point. And in the operations center, they're making the same conclusion. They want to know where all of the protesters are. They do not want to have a cordon line that is kilometers long as they see gatherings, not just in Hyde Park, but in front of the Macquarie Street, outside the courts. And all of a sudden, you have 5 different gatherings at 10 different locations, and you're starting to lose coherency of your force. You're starting to lose cogency of who's doing what, going where. And that, for the police, is very important to know where their teams are, because everyone here, they don't know what everyone else is doing. They have a commanding officer who they haven't spoken with in minutes now. They've been given a broad directive that went out verbally. We got a nice close-up of this as well. Jim turns to the right. So how did this little conflict happen? Let's watch this slow. Oh. Who wants to zoom in? What are they saying, CSI? Enhance. So there's some pushing and shoving going on over here. Guys, this is a late night chat. It's more of a ramble of things. So please don't feel like you're missing out on anything thrilling. This is me and a few other people trying to work out what happened at the only point of conflict that I wasn't at. I wasn't there, so I'm missing out. So I get to decrypt it and decipher it later. Come along for the ride and I'll tell you some stories. So here's a gentleman who doesn't want to be moved on again. Another gentleman in the blue. But what? Why is he moving forward? Orange jacket man, head pointed forwards. Why is he moving forwards towards the police line? Okay. You see some shoving just here? We're going to go start stepping forward frame by frame now. Yep, another little push of the lady, but behind the lady something is happening. So this might have been the flashpoint, is this lady being pushed forwards, and the crowd doesn't like seeing a woman manhandled. Probably should have sent one of the girls to do it instead. And you see her cap now starting to move backwards again. She's been pushed forward, and she's stepping back into the police. Oh, whoa, whoa! This is some force coming into him. Oh, yeah. Okay. She's either falling backwards or someone has pushed her into the police line. They've caught her. Now, the three around her are now going to decide what to do. Do they push her back, or do they catch her and gently, or do they throw her back? You think she got pushed back, Tracy? Okay, yeah, maybe. Yeah, someone pushed her. Maybe someone's going down here, or someone's pushed her into the line. So this guy, you can see in his face, he's made a decision to get her out of the line. He's fully engaged. There's another girl just here who's not happy about what just happened. Yes, Kate, it's if you're not interested in that, you don't have to, but some of us are interested in how these situations break down. Rittenhouse. Okay, she's now been pushed back forwards. He's crouching again. The rest of the crowd is rushing in. Where now the tone and body language of things are really ramping up now. Arms out. Who are the boys trying to grab? They're trying to de-arrest someone. This now starts getting messy. Who's grabbing who? Because these boys have made a decision to do something. Game of tug and war. Gentleman in the black cap seems to have held on to something, and there's something fallen in the middle. Someone's fallen, someone's grabbed onto something else, someone doesn't want to let go of a mobile phone. If I can suggest inciting, I'm only going to hold one person, Simeon. If you're holding the mic, 100 people can hear you. Yeah. Good stability on this one. Thank you, Simeon. All right. Yeah. Pulled him away. Okay. Going so. Moved by who's the officer's name? I want to see. Amdallah. Amdallah said, pulled the gentleman away. Amdallah pulled the gentleman away and just said, and then put his hand up. I'll show you. And said, I've pulled you away. That's all I'm going to do. So this is all non-verbal communication that you're going to see through this. And this is how police try to communicate through. Abdallah has said, I've pulled you away. Don't want you involved. I think that was like a last warning, because that gentleman had a few shoves already. This push-pull in the middle, we're still trying to decipher what it was over. Lady got a bit of a knock on the head there. Soft though, just a palm. And the police officers are trying to keep their palms up. All the while, Simeon, through this point, is trying to call this police brutality and ramping things up. He's not asking people to please disperse. Gentleman in the jacket is back into it again. Again, if this kind of conflict is what you wanted, this is how you'll get it. Police haven't arrested anyone, though. Isn't that just what you want? She doesn't know how this works. This lady doesn't know how groups, how police work. She doesn't know. She's come to a nice protest. Simeon has said this is police brutality. Simeon has said, hold the line. She's done that. I'm not going to call it her fault. You know, in Victoria, there was the lady who was pepper sprayed while she was on the ground. She fell and she was pepper sprayed by 2 officers while she's on the ground. And there were some commentators who said, oh, you shouldn't have gone to a protest then, love. What were you doing there? What were you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I don't buy that. I'm sorry. I hold people who understand the situation, know what they're doing, and holding a mic as culpable in that one. And that goes for CEOs of police as well in some situations. If you're a CEO of the officers who were dual pepper spraying a lady while she was on the ground, how are those two boys even still in your force? I don't even know. How did you train two boys to do that? How have you, what is going on inside your training force? Unless that's fine by you. New South Wales public order use hands, and most of these officers that you see here are using hands. Pepper spray is like an antibiotic. It'll get rid of the weakest and it'll leave the rest inflamed and outraged. It's not an effective use. Also with hands, you can measure the force very much. Within milliseconds, you can move someone back and forth and give you more strength and less, more strength and less. A rubber bullet is only 100%. There's no variability. There's no variability on pepper spray. You can't turn it up or down. That's why, as sometimes enraging physical force can be, you know the person it's coming from, and they can measure it. Sometimes they can be cruel. Sometimes they can be kind as well. Coming back to this lady, she's not used to this, so she's not to know that things can get like this in large purchase situations. But the handout here, let's keep going. The handout. Yeah, well, we've got what we wanted. If this is what we wanted, we're into it now. Is anyone being arrested now? We pan back over to the left where we now have an isolated group of about 4 guys. These were some of the most determined that we saw earlier. We still have the gentleman in the blue jacket who was returned time and time again. We're in a push me, pull you. Police trying to take him away? No, the gentleman on the right is trying to pull the gentleman in the black cap away from the rest. The police still don't seem to be grabbing anyone. They're just pushing people away. And the line gets reformed and congruency of them is reformed. Hold on. Here's someone they're trying to pull away. Here's who they're taking someone away here. Who have we now? And we have a couple of protesters trying to de-arrest her. Yep, she's being taken away. And the crowd's not happy about it. Police saying, it's not worth, just saying to him, it's not worth it, mate. It's not worth it. Line gets reformed. Yep. See the whole stand with your back to the police line, fall backwards. That's a way to maintain a protester's position without having to face them. And that's where you can get pushed forward and then pushed back. So we finally worked out what the push and pull was over. It's this lady just here. And keep in mind, most of this footage that I'm fast forwarding through this section, it's only 15 seconds. Lightning quick. And I get to sit here and judge it, frame at a time, millisecond at a time, trying to work out why everyone's trying to de-arrest the lady in the black cap. Because I believe at the beginning of this, the lady in the black cap is someone who just here begun, hands up. This is how we got here. Hands up. She's being pushed along, but then someone, we're speculating, yep, she gets a shove, but then big push back into the police line. Now, was she pushed or did she push herself back? Let's look closer. I'm not seeing anyone else's hands on her to push her. Unless that's the second person there. And that's the other girl. Brown jacket, black hat. Puts his hand up straight after she was pushed. Oh. So there's two girls standing next to each other here. She's come away. So black cap girl has come away and she has not been grabbed by the force. But okay. Until this starts heating up here. She's fallen or been pushed back into the line, met up with the other girl, and then arms go out to grab her. So it could be. Yeah, okay. So the force has made a decision here that they want that girl with the black cap just there. They want her. And the crowd is saying, no, we don't want to give it to you. We don't want to give her to you. Right. Okay. So that's what the push and pull was over. Black cap girl, that this force here decided in that push, where she fell backwards into them, that they wanted that. Cool. We'll zoom that out some and have a look at what happens after. Black cap girl falls back into the police lines, steps back up. Force makes decision there to detain her, grab her. There's a scrum into the middle to try and decide if we push or pull. Jacket Man along with Beanie Man, then also multiple times going back into the fray. Clear poncho, older lady, not knowing how this game of scrum and football works, stays in the middle of it, doesn't want to move on. Simeon all the while is telling everyone to hold the line, not to go anywhere else. Force is trying to get the black cap girl away. She doesn't want to go. The crowd doesn't want to let her go either. But they always want to get their man, or in this case, lady. Yep. Okay. Trying to grip her, pull her away. Force like, nope, that's not happening. That's not happening. There's actually two girls all the way along, and they're trying to arrest her. And they get her. No headlock, though. For anyone who watches Morgan Jonas's streams, when they want to get Morgan Jonas, they headlock him. Away. They've got the target. Now, I didn't see in the reports that there'd even been a single arrest. Seema. Okay. Oh, and Seema's in the middle of it trying to talk to people as well. Let's see if we can hear what Seema says to Simeon.
All on camera. All on camera, mate. Big mistake. All on camera. All on camera, mate.
Too much going on. Okay. I hope I enjoyed sharing some of that breakdown with you. Raptor OSG identified one black cap girl that they wanted to. Oh, there she is again. One black cap girl that they, whatever reason. Yeah. Breakdown of what should have been a protest in Hyde Park turned into a secondary protest in front of Queen Victoria, close to Parliament House. Police form a line and instruct protesters to return to Hyde Park. Simeon calls it, starts saying that the police serve them, not the other way around. Inspector comes over and asks again, refuses. OSG moves in, Raptor moves in, starts pushing protesters back to the park. Simeon calls for the protesters to hold the line. The line makes a slow phalanx move forward. A incident occurs where a black baseball capped. I don't feel hole without a hat, where a black baseball capped lady falls backwards or is pushed backwards into the police line. At that moment, the force decide to detain that lady. The protesters then feel dissatisfied with the conclusion and attempt to de-arrest her, leading to a push and pull. Older lady is flustered, surprised, shocked. A mother and child comes away screaming, and all the while, Simeon Boykov says that it was a mistake by police. Wasn't an objective that police needed to achieve right in that moment? I don't know. Wasn't an objective that Simeon Boykov needed to defend in that moment? I don't think so. Questions, thoughts, comments? Thanks for spending an hour with me recapping that. Hold on. These incidents like this aren't paid enough attention to. We skim over it in a headline and just ignore it. So, yeah, cool. He's an inspector. Inspector Asima Kubel. He's just a Seamer. Spoken with him a few times myself. Haven't really said much to them. Friendly enough. Most of the inner city command are used to dealing with protests like this, which is why I think this didn't even turn into an arrest, because there's nothing on the sheet, there's nothing on the press reports, there's nothing on the media releases. Not one arrest. Can you believe this turnout and not one arrest? Amazing. Shocking. That's amazing. If I can say as well, that's good work on both police and protesters because it's a dance. Lots of arrests. That doesn't mean glorious police arrested 4,000 troublemakers or glorious protest. It's hand in hand when no arrests happen. Hope you enjoyed that breakdown. If there's other incidents like it, I think that's something where a hard-headed protest fan like me can add some insight to try and de-Rittenhouse situations. See you next protest. Thanks for watching and always love your DMs. Night, guys.